The Barren Throne. The throne room of Queen Zelira was made of glowing crystal and floating orbs. The walls whispered with voices from ancient ancestors. But even in such beauty, the queen sat alone, cold, quiet, and without joy. Her golden eyes looked out over her empire, but her heart was hollow. Queen Zelira ruled the strongest alien race in the galaxy, the Varelians. Their cities flew in the sky. Their ships crossed galaxies in hours. But even with all this power, there was one thing. Her kind could not fix her broken womb. For many years, Zelira tried to have a child. Healers, scientists, even forbidden mystics, all had failed. No child grew inside her, no future heir for her throne. She was the last of her bloodline. If she died without an heir, her empire would fall into chaos. "Your Highness," whispered her royal advisor kneeling beside her. "The council wishes to meet you. They demand you name a successor." Zelira shook her head. "There is no successor. Not yet." Her voice was sharp, but her heart was breaking. That night she walked alone in the royal garden under twin moons. Strange plants glowed in the dark, singing soft melodies. She sat near a pond and looked at her reflection. "What is the purpose of power?" she whispered. "If I leave nothing behind." Suddenly the water shimmered. A light rose from the pond. It wasn't a reflection, it was a vision. A glowing figure floated above the water. It had no face, but it spoke in a language she hadn't heard in centuries. "Your womb holds no life, because your seed is not of this world." Zelira stood up, shocked. "Who are you?" "The one who guards the ancient promise," the voice replied. "Your bloodline will not end, but the one who can give you life is not Varelian." "Where?" she asked, heart racing. The vision pointed toward a spinning blue planet far away. "Earth. You must find the child of war and healing. He holds the spark. Your world cannot." Then the light vanished. Zelira ran back to her chamber. She ordered her scholars to search all records about Earth, a planet Varelians called a death world. It was dangerous, full of violent creatures, toxic air, and wild weather. Most Varelians stayed far from it, but not all. One name appeared in her files: Dr. Eli Carter, a human xenobiologist. He had once saved a Varelian ambassador from a rare disease by using Earth-born bacteria. His methods were strange but successful. He had knowledge no Varelian could understand. He was currently on a distant moon, working with alien species in a research station. Zelira made a decision. "Bring him to me," she told her guards. "Alive, unharmed. Tell him the Queen requests his help." Meanwhile, on the frozen moon of Scarnus, Dr. Eli Carter stood in a lab surrounded by six-eyed creatures in tanks. He was studying cross-species biology and writing notes in a messy journal. Suddenly, the lab doors burst open. 4 tall, armored aliens stepped in. "Dr. Eli Carter," one of them said in a deep voice, "you are ordered to come with us. The Queen of Varelia demands your presence." Eli blinked. "Queen of what now?" Before he could say no, they activated a transport device. In a flash of blue light, Eli disappeared from the lab. Back in the palace, Zelira waited beside a large window staring at the stars. Her hand rested on her belly. She had no idea if this human could really help, but she was done waiting, done crying. She was ready to fight fate. Just then, a portal opened behind her. A confused, slightly dizzy man stumbled out, wearing a torn lab coat and goggles on his head. "Okay," he muttered. "This is new." He looked up and froze. Before him stood a tall, regal alien woman with glowing silver skin, long white hair, and sharp golden eyes. Zelira walked toward him slowly. "You are Dr. Eli Carter," she said. He nodded slowly. "And you must be Queen Sparkle of Space?" Her lips twitched, almost a smile. "I brought you here because you carry something I need." Eli frowned. "Wait, what do you mean?" "I have no heir," she said softly. "My people say it is impossible, but a vision told me you may be the key to my future." Eli looked around the crystal room, then back at the alien queen. This has to be the weirdest job interview I've ever had. But something about her eyes made him stay quiet, and deep in her chest, for the first time in years, Zelira felt something strange. Hope. Eli Carter stood in the middle of the glowing palace, chamber completely out of place. His earth-made boots echoed against the smooth crystal floor. Alien nobles in tall robes watched him like he was some kind of dangerous animal. He tugged at his lab coat and whispered to himself, "What am I doing here?" Queen Zelira sat tall on her throne, her eyes glowing like golden fire. But this time, they weren't filled with cold power. No, there was curiosity and something else. A flicker of quiet desperation. "Dr. Carter," she said softly, "do you believe science can create miracles?" He scratched his head. "Science explains miracles, doesn't create them." She tilted her head. "What if I told you might do both?" Before Eli could answer, a tall alien male stepped forward. His name was Lord Varn, head of the Queen's Royal Science Council. "We have studied human biology in the past," Varn said, "but your DNA is different, chaotic, wild, and possibly the answer." Eli raised an eyebrow. "The answer to what?" Zelira stood. Her voice dropped lower. "To life." She walked toward him slowly, her hand stretched out. "I cannot have children," she said plainly. "No Varelian male, no healer, no god has succeeded. But something inside you, your cells burn hotter, more flexible. You have what we lost long ago." Eli froze. "Wait, are you saying you want me to help us understand?" She interrupted almost too quickly. "Nothing more for now." Later that night, Eli was given a private chamber in the palace. It had a floating bed, a window showing stars outside, and a strange plant that hummed softly. He couldn't sleep. Instead, he paced the room, thinking. "A queen who wants a human to fix her fertility," he whispered. "What is this? Some weird space soap opera?" But something about her eyes stayed in his mind. She didn't look cruel. She looked alone. Suddenly, a voice came from the wall. "Your presence is requested in the royal lab." Immediately, Eli followed two guards through long hallways. The lab was like a glowing jungle of technology. Machines floated in the air, scanners hummed, and alien doctors studied screens covered in strange symbols. Lord Varn met him at the center. "We began running tests on your cells, Dr. Carter," he said. "The results are unbelievable." Eli looked at the screen. He couldn't read the alien language, but the graphs looked chaotic. "You see this?" Varn pointed. "Your cell structure adapts faster than any species we know. Your reproductive DNA can bond with over 40% of known species." Eli blinked. "You tested that without asking?" Varn smiled coldly. "You're in our world now. Human, but be proud. You may be the most valuable male in the galaxy." Before Eli could respond, the doors slid open, and Queen Zelira entered. Everyone bowed. She looked directly at Eli. "I want you to understand. This is not just for me. My people are dying. Our future is locked. If we cannot evolve, we perish." Eli took a deep breath. "I'm a biologist, not a miracle worker," he said. "But your body may be the miracle," she replied. After the lab session, Zelira invited Eli to walk with her in the moonlight garden. The stars were bright, alien, birds flew in silence. "Do you think I'm desperate?" she asked suddenly. He glanced at her. "I think you're a queen who's tired of pretending to be strong." She stopped walking. "No one has ever said that to me," she whispered. They stood in silence. Then she said something that surprised even herself. "If this bond between us works, the child will be part human." Eli nodded. "Half Earth, half Varelian. Sounds like a sci-fi headline." She gave him a small smile. "Would that child belong to both worlds?" "I don't know," he said quietly. "But I'd make sure it never felt alone." For the first time in years, the queen felt her chest tighten. Was it fear or something else? But far away, in the shadows of the Empire, not everyone was happy. Inside a dark warship orbiting the Varelian moon, a shadowy figure watched the palace through a stolen camera feed. So, the queen seeks a human heir. The voice growled. He turned to his soldiers. Prepare the fleet. If she carries a half-blood, we'll destroy it before it's born. The door to the secret chamber hissed open. It wasn't part of the palace, no guards, no lights, just a cold metal room hidden deep underground, where only 3 people were allowed. Queen Zilira stepped inside first. Her long silver robe dragged across the steel floor. Behind her came Dr. Eli Carter holding a case full of Earth-made equipment. Last was Lord Varn, the silent observer. Here, the laws of the Varelian Empire did not exist. This place was made for what they called forbidden science. This is the only lab not connected to the royal system, Zilira whispered. No cameras, no spies, we work alone. Eli looked around. This feels like the start of a sci-fi horror movie. The queen said nothing. She sat down beside a glowing device. It hummed softly, pulsing with violet light. A scanner floated. Above it, Varn opened a glass box and took out 2 thin silver needles. This will mix Varelian egg cells with your human DNA, he said. The sample will be contained inside a stasis pod. If rejection occurs, the test fails. Eli took a deep breath. You sure you want to do this? Zilira didn't blink. I have waited a lifetime. Let's begin. The procedure started slow. Machines clicked and glowed. The human DNA merged with alien cells inside a crystal tube. At first, it looked like nothing was happening. Then, movement. A single cell divided. Then again. Then again. Varn's eyes went wide. It's stable. Zilira leaned forward, her breath caught. It's alive, she whispered. Eli looked at the screen. I think that's the first human Varelian embryo in history. But before they could celebrate, an alarm buzzed, soft but urgent. Unauthorized access detected. Zilira stood. Someone found us. Varn ran to the wall and slammed a button. The embryo pod sealed into a hidden compartment. Eli grabbed his case and looked around. Do you have weapons? But the queen didn't answer. Instead, the door blasted open. Smoke filled the room and 2 armored soldiers stepped in. Their eyes glowed red. Not palace guards. Assassins. Protect the queen, Varn shouted. One soldier fired a pulse gun. Varn was hit in the chest. He fell, groaning. Eli ducked behind a pillar. Zilira didn't run. She raised her hand and threw out a pulse of golden energy, knocking one attacker across the room. But the second charged her. Just before the blade hit, Eli leapt between them with a shock baton from his case. He struck the soldier in the helmet. Sparks flew. The soldier dropped. Eli stood over him, chest heaving. Okay, now it's definitely a sci-fi movie. Zilira stared at him in shock. You protected me. I'm not just a nerd with test tubes, he said. I grew up in Chicago. Later the palace was locked down. Varn recovered but was badly wounded. He rested in a healing chamber. Zilira and Eli stood alone in her private chamber, far from spies and danger. We've crossed a line, Eli said quietly. If anyone finds out what we made, they will try to destroy it, she finished. He looked at her. Then we need to move the embryo. Hide it somewhere even you can't be found. She nodded. I know a place, but we'll go alone. Eli sighed. Of course we will. I didn't want a boring life anyway. She stepped closer. You've already given me more than all my own people ever did. He hesitated. Why me? She looked into his eyes. Because you saw me. Not as a queen, but as a woman. A broken one. A real one. For a moment, everything went quiet. Outside the palace, warships moved in secret. Leaders whispered of rebellion. Priests warned of doom, and in a dark council chamber a voice spoke. The queen is no longer pure, she must be removed. The Queen of Virelia disappeared. No warning, no goodbye. Just vanished. In the early hours before the twin suns rose, a royal transport ship silently left the palace docking bay. No escort, no guards. Only 2 passengers on board, Queen Zelira and the human scientist, Dr. Eli Carter. The royal court panicked. Some whispered she had been kidnapped. Others said she had gone mad. But a few knew the truth. She had left to protect something far more valuable than her throne. Inside a secure case, locked in Eli's backpack, was the embryo. The child of 2 worlds. The ship entered warp space, slicing through stars. Zelira sat in the pilot's seat, her hands shaking slightly. She hadn't flown alone in years. Eli sat beside her, chewing a protein bar. "So, we're fugitives now?" She nodded. "The council will call it treason. Do they know you're carrying their future?" She looked at him, voice calm, but cold. "They don't want the future, they want control." He leaned back. "I'm starting to understand why you left." They landed on a barren moon called Varnath, once a sacred ground now forgotten. Dust storms blew across the red rocks. Old temples lay in ruins. But beneath the sand was a hidden sanctuary, built centuries ago by the first mothers of Virelia. No technology, no power signals. It was invisible to scanners. Here, they would hide. Inside the stone walls, Eli set up a small lab. The embryo chamber was placed in the center, glowing softly. He adjusted its temperature, checked its heartbeat. Zelira watched quietly. Her eyes were softer now. "You care for it," she said. "It's part of both of us," Eli replied. "It deserves a chance." She sat beside him. "In all my years as queen, I never felt this powerless. But now, hiding in dirt, with no army, no crown, I feel more alive." He smiled. "Welcome to being human." But while they hid, danger hunted them. Back in the palace, Lord Varn, now recovered, stood before the royal council. His wounds had changed him. His loyalty wavered. "She has left with the human," he said, "and they carry a child." Gasps filled the chamber. One general stepped forward. "We must destroy it, before others follow her example." A shadow stepped from the dark. High Priestess Ralthea, the queen's former spiritual guide. "She has broken the sacred law," the priestess hissed. "A human seed in the holy womb? It is filth." Varn clenched his fists. "It is evolution." "She will birth a mistake," Ralthea said, "and you will lead the hunt to end it." Varn lowered his head. "Yes, High Priestess." "On Varnath?" Zelira stared at the stars while Eli prepared food using a portable earth stove. She spoke softly, almost to herself. "If we don't return, they will erase me from history." He looked up. "Then let them forget. We'll make a new history." She turned to him. "And if I die, will you protect the child?" His answer was firm. "I'll raise her, teach her both worlds, make sure she never hides." Tears shimmered in her golden eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. "Thank you, Eli." Then the ground rumbled. Eli stood. "Was that an earthquake?" "No," Zelira whispered. She ran outside and saw black ships descending through the clouds. "They found us." They grabbed the embryo chamber and ran into the old tunnels, beneath the temple. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lights flickered. In the distance, boots echoed, getting closer. Zelira led the way. "These tunnels were made by my ancestors. Only I know the full path." Eli clutched the chamber tight. "If we lose this, everything ends." A flash behind them, an explosion. The ceiling collapsed. They dived through a narrow crack just before the stone sealed shut behind them. Dust filled the air. Eli coughed hard, waving away falling debris as the ancient stone tunnel behind them collapsed completely. "Great," he muttered. "Now we're stuck under a temple, with no food, no signal, and a glowing alien embryo in a box." Zelira, though breathing hard, was focused. She moved her hand along the cracked wall, tracing symbols carved centuries ago. "This tunnel leads to the Chamber of Mothers," she said. "If we reach it, there may be old power cores we can use." Eli looked down at the life support monitor on the embryo chamber. The lights were blinking yellow. "Battery's dying," he warned. 4 hours max before it fails." "Then, we walk," she replied, and so they did, deeper into the forgotten bones of Varelian history. As they moved, the tunnel widened into a tall hall with carvings and statues. Female figures, queens and warriors, were frozen in stone. Some smiled, others wept. "This is where our ancestors begged the stars for children," Zalera said quietly. "Some were answered, most were not." Eli looked at the walls. "You really thought you'd never have one?" She nodded. "I accepted it, wore my crown, gave speeches, ruled planets. But when I came back to my chamber, I was always alone." Looked at him now, her voice lower. "But since I met you, something has changed. Not just inside me, but around me. I feel alive." He met her gaze. "You're not alone anymore." Back on the surface, Lord Varn stepped off his warship, flanked by armed guards. But his orders were clear. Do not harm the queen. Or the child. The high priestess had only given him half-truths. He had other plans. "Search the ruins," he barked. "She'll be underground. Use heat sensors. Move fast." A soldier stepped forward. "And if we find the embryo?" Varn hesitated. Then he said, "Bring it to me. Unharmed." Deep in the catacombs, Eli and Zalira finally reached the Chamber of Mothers. It was round, hollow, and glowing faintly with ancient energy. A broken console still hummed in the center. Eli rushed to it, hooked up the embryo's chamber, and watched as green lights flickered on. "Stabilizing," he muttered. "Power levels holding." Zalira exhaled slowly. "You did it." But before they could rest, a voice echoed from the shadows. "You've come far, my queen." They turned. Varn stepped from the darkness alone, hands raised. Eli raised a tool like a weapon. "Stay back," Zalira stopped him. "Wait," Varn bowed deeply. "I did not come to kill you." "Then why are you here?" Zalira asked sharply. He looked at the embryo chamber. "To protect your child, and your legacy." Varn stepped closer. "The council wants war. The priests want your blood. But I've seen what they fear. Change. They don't want peace. They want obedience." He looked at Eli. "You may be human, but you saved her life. Twice. You gave her a future." Eli frowned. "So what, now you want to join us?" "No," Varn said. "I want to make a deal." He handed Zalira a small crystal chip. "This is a new identity, a transport, a way out. Take it. Leave this empire. Raise the child far from this poison." Zalira stared at him, confused. "You would betray your own people?" He stepped back, voice bitter. "They betrayed you the moment you carried hope." Suddenly footsteps echoed. "Too late," Varn hissed. "They followed me." Soldiers burst in, armed, ready. Varn shouted, "Go, now!" Eli grabbed the embryo chamber. Zalira touched Varn's shoulder for one last glance. "Thank you," she said. Then she and Eli sprinted through a side tunnel. Varn turned to the soldiers, drawing his blade. "If you want to harm them," he said, voice hard, "you'll have to go through me." The stolen ship drifted in orbit over a nameless planet. Eli leaned over the controls, eyes heavy with exhaustion. Beside him, Queen Zalira sat quietly, one hand resting on the glowing embryo chamber. They had escaped Varneth's underground catacombs with seconds to spare. Varn's sacrifice had bought them time, but nowhere felt safe anymore. Zalira whispered, "This world, no one's mapped it in centuries." Eli glanced at the readings. High oxygen, mild gravity, no satellites, no cities, no signs of war. "Good," she said. "We'll hide here." The ship descended through thick blue clouds, passing over oceans and dense purple forests. It finally landed near a waterfall glowing with green light. Eli carried the chamber gently down the ramp. The planet was alive with quiet sounds, birds, wind, and strange glowing insects floating in the air. For the first time in days, it felt peaceful. They built a camp near the waterfall using salvage from the ship. Eli set up the lab's basics, power supply, and checked the embryo. The heartbeat was strong, but something strange had begun. The child's DNA was shifting, slowly, subtly. Her cells are changing again, he muttered, adapting to the planet. Zalira looked concerned. What does that mean? Eli turned the screen toward her. She's evolving, already. Her body is learning from her surroundings. That's not supposed to happen before birth. Zalira moved closer to the chamber, her fingers touched the glass. She's learning, even now. Yes, Eli said. And that's impossible, or was impossible. That night, a storm rolled in. The wind howled. Strange beasts cried in the distance. Zalira couldn't sleep. She stepped outside the tent and looked at the stars, cloak wrapped tightly around her. Behind her, the embryo chamber began to glow brighter. The lights flickered, then pulsed in rhythm with the storm. Eli sat up and stared. What the hell? He grabbed his scanner. The energy spike coming from the embryo was massive. The air around the chamber bent slightly like a ripple in space. Then the storm stopped. Just like that. Silence. Zalira turned. What happened? Eli looked at the readings. She stopped it. Zalira blinked. The child? He nodded slowly. She controlled the weather. By morning, they both stood at the edge of the waterfall watching the sky. She's more than just a child, Eli said quietly. She's something new. Zalira nodded. Something the galaxy has never seen. Then a distant sound, thrum, thrum. Eli turned. A ship was approaching from the clouds, sleek, silent, and black. Zalira's eyes went wide. That's not Varelian. The ship hovered above the trees. Symbols etched on its side flickered in red. The design was older than even... Zalira remembered. Ancient enemy, she whispered. The Malari wiped out long ago. Eli frowned. Why are they here? The ship landed. From its ramp stepped a figure. Tall, pale, its face hidden behind a mask of silver bone. It spoke in a language older than any translator. But the child inside the chamber responded. A wave of energy pulsed from her body, pure, soundless light. The alien froze and knelt. Zalira's heart pounded. Why did it do that? Eli whispered. Because it recognized her. The alien removed its mask. Its skin shimmered like glass. It bowed to Zalira. In your womb. She carries the memory of stars. Eli stepped forward. You know about her? The alien nodded. She is not just your daughter. She is the bridge between all things, past and future. We sensed her awakening. Zalira looked shocked. You sensed her? From across space? The alien smiled. She is the firstborn of harmony. The last time such a being existed, galaxies joined in peace, then war destroyed it all. He looked at Eli. But now, it begins again. With her. The sun rose slowly over the alien world. It cast golden light across purple forests, silver mountains, and a still waterfall. The camp by the river looked peaceful. But beneath the calm, the universe was beginning to tremble. Inside the small tent, the Queen of Virelia, no longer dressed in royal robes but a simple traveler's cloak, stood beside a glowing chamber. She placed a hand over the glass. Inside, the unborn child pulsed with quiet power. She's growing faster, Zalira whispered. Dr. Eli Carter, seated nearby with his datapad, nodded. Faster than any human or alien I've studied. Her brain activity, it's already advanced. He didn't say the rest. She's evolving beyond what either of them understood. 3 days had passed since the ancient Malari visitor knelt before the chamber and called the unborn child a bridge of harmony. Since then, strange signals echoed from across space, old frequencies, long-dead languages. Forgotten empires and hidden watchers were waking up, and not all of them wanted peace. In deep space, above a dying red star, a fleet gathered. Not human, not alien, something older. Inside the lead ship, cloaked in shadows, sat the oracles of the Silence War, keepers of the old prophecy. "The queen has survived," one hissed. "The child must not be born," another whispered. "She will unite the divided, break the chains of power, destroy the old gods. We must strike before her first breath." Back on the planet, Eli walked along the riverbank while Zalira meditated inside the temple ruins. He had spent so long running from war, from politics, from fate. Now, fate had caught him and asked him to help build a future he never imagined. Looked up at the sky. "You're really something, kid," he whispered to the embryo. "You're not even born, and you've got the galaxy shaking." That night, Zalira had a dream. She stood on a battlefield made of stars. Armies of light and shadow clashed around her. In her arms she held her daughter, newborn, glowing, silent. From the shadows a voice said, "Give her to us, and we will spare your worlds." But the child looked up. Her eyes were galaxies. She raised one hand and the battlefield went still. Then the dream ended. She awoke gasping. Eli was already awake. He pointed to the sky. A new ship had appeared. It wasn't like the Malari vessel. It was black, jagged, massive. It didn't land. It hovered like a predator. A voice boomed from above. "Surrender the child or be purged." Eli and Zalira looked at each other. No time to run, no place to hide. She stood up. "I have to face them." Eli grabbed her arm. "You'll die." "No," she said. "I'm not just a queen anymore. I'm her mother." They walked out to the open field. The warship opened. 6 armored beings stepped out, faceless, silent. But before they could act, the embryo chamber began to float. Its light grew stronger. The earth shook. Wind rushed through the trees. The waterfall reversed, flowing upward into the sky. Then she appeared. A blinding pulse of light burst from the chamber, and standing there, small, glowing, barefoot, was the child, born without pain, without blood, without fear. Zalira fell to her knees. "My daughter." The child turned. She was silent. Her eyes were made of stars. Her skin shimmered with shifting color. She walked forward, past Eli, past her mother, toward the invaders. The leader raised a weapon. But before he could fire, the child touched his chest. He dropped his weapon, his armor shattered. His body turned to golden dust and drifted into the wind. The others fled. Silence. Eli stepped forward slowly. You stopped them." The child turned to him, then spoke, not with her mouth but directly into their minds. "I do not want war, but I will end it if I must." Zalira held her hand to her chest, tears in her eyes. "You're everything I was told I could never have," she whispered. The child turned to her mother. "You chose love over fear. That made me possible." She reached out and touched Zalira's heart. A soft golden glow spread across the queen's chest. She gasped. Memories rushed into her, past queens, ancient wars, secrets of the stars. She now remembered everything. Like the universe had opened to her. Eli stared in awe. What is she?" Zalira answered without thinking. "She is not just my daughter. She is the seed of a new galaxy." In the weeks that followed, news of the starborn child spread. Empires paused their wars. Old enemies sent peace messages. Those who feared change hid in shadows, but most came forward, curious, hopeful. Eli and Zalira built a sanctuary on the Siu, planet's highest mountain, where leaders from all species could come, not to rule but to learn. The child grew quickly. She spoke all languages, understood all sciences. She brought weather to dead planets, healed sick worlds, gave voice to those forgotten, but she never claimed a throne. She walked among farmers, danced with street children, built gardens on moons, and always returned to two people, her human father and her alien mother. Years later, as stars aligned in the sky, the child stood beside her mother on a quiet hill. She asked, "Why did you choose a human?" Zalira smiled. "Because he had something our galaxy had lost." In a universe divided by fear, it wasn't strength, weapons, or crowns that changed everything. It was love, a broken queen, a lost human, and a child who showed them the stars still listened.